And China is a really interesting point because I think they're going to tout really good China production numbers as a part of this new release. And then China's been back up and running for over a month now. I'm going to show this picture. Oh, whoops, wrong picture. Of this phase two is what they're calling it of the Shanghai Gigafactory, which is, I believe, the Model Y production line or maybe the battery production. But even the construction expansion is back up and running. They're saying the factory itself is maybe back up to like 3,000 cars a week, but maybe that's burst rate. But I think in my calculations, like Q2, we could start to get meaningful gross profit that wasn't there in 2019 from Shanghai Gigafactory that will start to offset these losses should they continue. And I think that's a silver lining that is causing Tesla stock to outperform significantly in this drawdown. You know, the stock's still way higher than it was a year ago, just crushing in terms of outperformance versus Ford, GM, all these other companies. And I think a reason that may continue is that even if we're still remaining shutting down, this China thing is just going to keep booming and booming. And eventually, you know, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of cars from China. So I'm seeing that as a silver lining.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I expect Tesla to heavily emphasize that point when they do release this delivery and production report. I think they're going to want to, particularly Elon, I think he's going to want to tell a story of strength. You know, he's been pretty vocal about this being something that, you know, people are somewhat overreacting to, you know, calling the panic being dumb. Panic is always dumb. So I think that makes sense. But he's been talking about the case counts declining and on the ventilator situation saying they'll help, but it's not something he thinks there's going to be like huge need for, which is, you know, contrarian to a lot of other people's opinions. So I think Elon is going to use this as an opportunity to also, you know, show that they believe Tesla's in a strong position as well. And a huge part of that is Gigafactory Shanghai and what you just talked about. You know, if they're at 3,000 a week right now, that's 150,000 cars a year. And I'm not sure when Tesla, that would have been like, what, 2018, that they would have produced like 150,000 vehicles for the entire year. So even if Fremont produces nothing, like it sets us back to where we were in 2018. Like it's not that crazy. Obviously that would be bad and that's not going to happen. But just to kind of give some perspective, like that's not, Tesla's still going to operate and Gigafactory Shanghai is going to be a huge part of that. So I think they're going to make that very clear in this letter.
Yeah. And one thing I think that Tesla has so much flexibility in that people aren't estimating, or that I've kind of been like, wow, we got so lucky that this didn't happen a year ago or a year and a half ago. Because I feel like Tesla's in this point in its CapEx cycle where they invested so much in CapEx for the Model 3 production line. And now for the past year or so, they've been milking all that investment and just it's been adding up to huge cash flow. And just that's why they have record cash on their balance sheet. And they did the capital raise. And it's like they were about to have this whole new reinvest in CapEx cycle with the Model Y. With Gigafactory Berlin, with Gigafactory Shanghai expansion, and they can literally just pause all those projects as demand pauses right at like this peak investment part of the CapEx cycle. And it's like for Tesla, at least, the timing could have never been better for this situation, for them to just kind of like put the brakes on for a second until this blows over, and then go right back into growth mode and like minimize that financial distress.
Yeah, completely agree. And that's why I think the essence of your original question here was like, what's the long-term prognosis here for Tesla? And, you know, my thoughts as a bullish shareholder. And for me, it doesn't change too much. Like this is still a short-term issue. Yeah, it's longer than many of us would, you know, all of us would like it to be. But it's something that we're going to figure out and we're going to work through. And, you know, things aren't stopping. So, and to your point, Tesla's better positioned than any of its competition to work through this. And I think this is just going to cause even more strain on competition to be able to invest in electric vehicles. Like they're focused now on staying alive as best they can through this situation. And investment in electric vehicles, sadly, is not the best way for them to stay alive in the short term. So I think it's just going to cause more and more delays and less investment in new energy vehicles from competition. And as much as we would all like to see them, you know, bring out good products and stop making ICE vehicles, it's just not, this doesn't facilitate that. And that just means Tesla's going to get further and further ahead. So this probably actually extends Tesla's lead and makes it even more difficult to compete. So yeah, long term, this is probably even, you know, from a competitive positioning, something that's going to strengthen Tesla.